Hi guys, welcome to my summer DIY series. Thanks for stopping by. Let's get going. I'm creating a farmhouse wheelbarrow for my outdoor front porch decor. I actually got this idea from a neighbor who bought these from just a farmer around this area, and I thought I could recreate this for free myself. This is free because I actually had Domestic Diva tell me a place that was giving away free pallets, so I went there and I got some free pallets. So here's one of them. So this was actually a team effort between me and my husband. We started off with this pallet, and what he did was he took it apart. I helped him a little bit, but he did most of it. He always likes to do that kind of stuff. So he took it apart one by one. Some of the ones he took the nails out first, some of them he banged them out first. It just depends. You just have to be careful because the pieces of wood do like to crack if you're trying to pull out, if you pull too hard. And once we got everything separated, we kind of put them on the floor to see what we wanted it to look like. Because the wheelbarrow or wagon, whatever you want to call it, it does kind of go into like a triangle shape or a V shape. I put an 11-inch pot in there to see how wide we wanted it to be, and then my husband cut the middle pieces to size. So basically what we're doing is we're taking two longer pieces and then we're putting smaller pieces in the middle. Now he used a jigsaw to cut these. I can give you the sizes, but if you don't, like if your palette is bigger or not, you might have to cut them or smaller, you might not work. But if you guys want the size, like the exact measurements, I can give them to you in the comments below. Just let me know. And then what he did was he pre-drilled all of the holes for where he was going to screw everything together, because these pallets are thinner wood, so you don't want it cracking. You want to pre-drill a hole and then you want to screw it in. So he screwed in the pieces that are holding the wheelbarrow together, so as you can see here, and the middle piece is smaller and the bottom piece is bigger. And then he used just a piece of plywood to cut out a wheel, and we just used something round that we had to measure the size of the wheel. And he used his jigsaw again and then pre-drilled the holes here, and then just attached a little piece of wood, just thicker wood here to attach the wheel. You could use, like from a plunger, you could use the stick from the plunger from the Dollar Tree and then just pre-drill a larger hole, but we didn't go that way. This isn't going to be a functional wheelbarrow. It's going to just be decorative. The little pieces were, I believe, from a 2x4, and again, he just screwed everything together. Then he went and he cut the pieces so that the wheelbarrow would have like a little lift up on it. So at the bottom, he just put two pieces so that the basket doesn't fall out. And then inside, he used these little small pieces to connect everything together. Again, it's going to be outside. Our porch is not covered, so he wanted to make sure that it doesn't fall apart. With wood glue, it might fall apart. And with nails, they're just nails, so we always prefer screws. So he screwed everything in, pre-drilled all of the holes, put two pieces at the bottom, just like I said, so that it stays in place. And then just added one more piece to the top, and then it connected it with the body of the wheelbarrow. And then it looks like it has a little lift up there, just like a normal wheelbarrow does. And then for the feet, we just used a scrap piece of plywood that he cut for the feet. So I always say my husband is the construction, and I am the design. So this was kind of what I had envisioned, and he put it together. Very nice of him. I probably could have done some of these things, but he just did it all in the garage, so I wouldn't have to go up and down the stairs to where like our little workshop is set up. And because the little guy was sleeping, he just brought what he needed upstairs, and I don't like to use the jigsaw, to be honest with you. It scares me a little bit. So for the paint, I wanted it to look like old wood, basically. I wanted it to look like aged, kind of like, if you know what like beached wood, kind of driftwood looks like. That's kind of the color I was going for. So I had some black paint, just really old black paint for outdoors, and I mixed it in with just some Rust-Oleum chalk linen white to get a gray color, and then I used a baby wipe to just kind of work it in and brush off the excessive paint. I used a really rough brush, old brush, so that it would not be completely covered, and it gave me the look I was going for. So I just covered all of the outside pieces. I didn't bother painting the inside of the wagon, again, because I'm going to be having this probably in the fall. I'll have some mums in there, and then for the summer I'm going to be putting a fern, I think, not the pot that you saw at the beginning, probably a fern. But you will see my porch decor video tomorrow, so I'm still, it's Tuesday and the video's due Wednesday, and I'm still like decorating my front porch. I had done planters anyway. You'll see it in my video tomorrow. It was a bit of a mess, but anyway, this will go on my front porch. And then the wheel is the only part that I did not paint gray. I'm actually going to be using this Annie Sloan black wax, and I'm going to be applying it to the wheel to give it kind of like a black stain. And I'm also going to be going around the whole painted part of this wheelbarrow, and I'm going to be putting the black wax on it so it looks a little bit darker and more aged. And with the wax, I apply liberally and then I wipe it off until I get the look that I'm going for. So I just wanted to thank you guys for dropping by my channel. I really, really appreciate you watching. It means the world to me. And I hope I can give you some ideas where you can make things for your home on a budget. Hopefully you're either super handy with the tools or you have someone that can help you out like I do. I always have crazy ideas, and I'm so blessed to have a husband who supports me in my crazy ideas. He never complains and he just does them. He's amazing. So he's my superstar. So he helps me out with a lot of these bigger projects, and he helps, some of my ideas come to life. So if you want to see what I do, everything I do is on a budget, either thrift flip, DIY, trash to treasure, or Dollar Tree makeover, any of those. If that kind of stuff interests you, make sure you hit that subscribe button and make sure you hit the like button and drop me a note. Let me know that you stopped by. I also have an Instagram and Facebook account, so you can always follow me there, and you can leave me messages there too. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Here's the finished piece. So I really love the way it turned out. I think it'll make a great decor piece to my front porch. So here it is with the fern. So my signs are pool themed because we have a swimming pool. You can always, switch the wording up to be cottage or porch or barbecue, whatever you would want. So for the first two signs, actually, I'm starting off with this bigger piece of wood. Now, it's just an old piece of plywood. I'm working with all sorts of scrap wood that we have. And for this scrap piece of wood, I'm going to be cutting it in half. But because I'm doing this late at night, kiddos are sleeping, I can't use the saw. So I'm just going to sand it down, prep it, paint it how I want to, and then in the morning, myself or my husband will cut it. Probably him, because he tends to not. He gets worried when I use any kind of equipment because I am very accident prone. So I just start off by giving it a light sand just to get any of the pieces of wood that are kind of like sticking out or whatever off, just to make it a little bit smoother. I'm not making it super smooth. This is like construction grade plywood, so I mean you probably could sand it down quite a bit and it would still be fairly rough, but this just makes it a little bit smoother than it was. It cleans it up nice, and then I just start painting. And I'm using the Rust-Oleum chalk linen white as my base for this, and then I'll be adding some acrylic colors to it as well. So half of the sign will be like an aged rustic white with black distressed sign, and the other half will have like a fading ombre effect, I guess, of green and blue. So I'm just using the forest green acrylic paint, and I'm just lightly putting on a little bit and then rubbing it in with a baby wipe. And then I do the same with the Pacific blue, and I just rub it all in. And now it'll give me kind of 3 stripes, 1 white, 1 blue, and 1 green. Now you'll notice that I left a little bit at the top of there uncovered, like not painted, and that it's a little bit, that white part is a little bit bigger. It's because I'm going to be cutting it off. Because the edges were very rough, I wanted to cut them off so they would be nicer, and they weren't even. So after I blended in the green and blue, I dry brushed some black over top of the white. And then I went over it with my baby wipe as well, just to kind of blend it in, make it look distressed and old looking. So then I went and I used my Cricut to write down the wording. For the white sign, I used American typewriter. For the multicolored sign, I used American typewriter as well as Easy November. And you'll see why I used Easy November. Easy November is like a cursive font. And I got all these fonts from DaFont. So if you're interested in them, they're there. And I applied my stencil to here, and then I just stenciled it in. I did not glue on the vinyl. I used the well, shelf liner actually is what I used as my stencil. And I always say this in my videos when I'm doing signs or stencils, always use transfer paper to put your vinyl or stencil on, because the vinyl stretches and so does the shelf liner, so you don't want it to stretch and be all like the shape to get deformed. And make sure you glue it on really, like, when you're sticking it on, you take your time to really stick it on so that pieces aren't coming up, because it'll bleed then. And then use like a dabber like I'm using here, or there's a stenciling brush from the Dollar Tree, or you can even use makeup sponges or any kind of sponges to just dab it on. You don't want to do too much paint. You're better off doing several coats than doing a lot, because it will bleed. And I use black acrylic paint for all of these, for both signs, and I can't wait to show you what they look like when they're done. I'm so happy with the way they turned out. So here they both are finished. I have them displayed under my deck. I love the way they turned out. The blue and the green is very faint on this one, which is how I wanted it, and this one just looks awesome. I love them. So on to the next one. So here's another scrap piece of wood, which is a fence board, pressure treated fence board that we had left over from a previous project. And I'm going to be painting it as well in the Rust-Oleum chalk linen white. And then I will be using my stencil on it. Now, I did make a mistake. I put the wrong stencil on the wrong piece of wood, so I had to kind of change around what I was going to do. It still turned out really nice, but it just wasn't what I originally planned. So I planned this one to be kind of like an aged white, but then I wound up changing it around, which actually turns out to be a good little tutorial. So turned out okay. Because I wanted this sign to have a certain look, I didn't go with the white as I planned, because I wanted the other sign to be white. So I applied this decorative glaze from Rust-Oleum, which if you've watched my videos, I use this a lot to stain things. And I just put it on this board to give it like the look of stained wood. I could have flipped around the board and just done it on the other side, but I kind of wanted to see if I could make it work. So this way, if you guys have a painted piece of wood and want to have it look like wood, it kind of gives you an idea of how to do it. So I just, rub on, rub off as much as I need to get it nice and dark. After I applied the two coats, I still feel like it's not dark enough, so I add a little bit of black acrylic paint, and then I use my wood grain tool just to give the illusion of it being wood and not paint underneath. And it just, I love the way it turns out. It looks like old wood, but not like painted old wood, but just like perfectly aged old wood, at least in my opinion. Then I apply the stencil, which is Eat, Sleep, Swim, and I put on white, like Rust-Oleum chocolate and white paint on here. And again, I dab it on like I do with the other ones. And for this font, I used the lemon lemon font, DK Lemon, I believe it is. Again from Dafont. It's like the most similar, in my opinion, to Ray Dunn font, kind of. So that's what I was kind of going for. And here it is all finished. Now I am not protecting these signs because they are not going to be out in the elements. They're under a covered deck, so they'll be fine. But I love the way this one turned out. So this next sign is the one that I made a mistake on. So I had originally stained it wanting to put the Eat, Sleep, Swim, Repeat on there, but I accidentally put the wrong stencil on and did it, and then I just glued in after. So I went with it, and that's why I made the other one. I had to go over top of the other one. But for this one, what I did was I just applied the Rust-Oleum glaze, decorative glaze, and I just did I kept on applying until I got the darkness that I wanted. I think it was about 2 times I went over it. But I didn't let it dry or anything in between. I just applied it, rubbed it off, and then put it a little bit more and rubbed it off. And that was all there is to it. It looks really nice when you do it on raw wood as well. So you can kind of see what that looks like. And I always just use scrap pieces of cloth. I think these are old pajamas, so I just kind of cut them up to what I need, and that's what I use. You don't have to spend any money. Just use old clothes if you're not going to use them or if they're garbage. And so this will just be a sign that says pool towels. Now this one is partially complete. As you guys know, we're in a lockdown still here in Ontario, and it's just been kind of extended until the 14th. It was supposed to be done on the 2nd, but they're kind of letting us, yeah, it's a weird system. But anyway, so I can't buy hooks for the towel, like for this. So once we open, then because I want to go into the store and I want to kind of look at what they have. Sometimes online isn't the best way to shop. I like to kind of go in and kind of pick around. And there's certain stores that I like to go to. We have some liquidation stores, and those don't have very good shop online websites. So once those are open, like once we can buy the essentials in those stores, then I will get some hooks for this. And I want to get hooks that are either stainless steel or plastic that you can screw on kind of from the back and have them hang down for this. But anyway, when I was cutting the pool towels, I accidentally put too short of a stencil on, so it says pool towel, and then I just did an S separately. Okay, so then I just dabbed on the Rust-Oleum chocolate and white paint on here like I did with the other ones, and that's all there is to it until we're out of lockdown. And then I'll show you guys maybe in like an Instagram post or something what it looks like all finished. So here it is partially finished, and I really think it looked cute. Can't wait to add the little hooks and hang it up. Now this last sign I kind of threw in as a bonus. If you watched some of my videos from last year, you would have seen that I made this sign last year, but I did not protect it, and I left it. Actually, it was fine all winter and it was fine outside, but we were pressure washing the deck upstairs, and I moved it. However, I moved it in the path of the water. I don't know how. So it took off the red paint, so the swim at your own risk. So I'm just fixing it, and then I'm going to, because I'm moving them, they're not going to be under the deck anymore. They are, but it's not completely covered. So I will be protecting them with some varathane just so that they keep. But I mean, it doesn't really matter. I can just redo them next year. Maybe I'll change them to something else, but I will protect them just so I don't have to, and so I don't have to remove them. And they are on pressure treated plywood, so they'll be fine in that sense. It's just to protect the paint. So I just cut out the swim at your own risk from my sign before, and I just dabbed on some red paint. And I'll just show you what both of those signs look like at the end, and I will also show you I'll link a video of how I set them up last year. I never actually recorded myself making them. So this year I moved them and I put them on here. It's just underneath the stairs of my deck, and it'll give a little bit more privacy from the neighbors. Not that we need it, we like our neighbors, but it's just a little bit, it'll look a little bit less barren, that you don't feel like you're in their backyard. And here are all of the other signs all set up under my porch, under my deck. Just missing the pool towel sign, which, like I said, I'll show you probably on Instagram. So let me know what you think. I love the way they turned out. I love how they look up here, and it just gives a little bit more personality underneath our deck. For my summer lantern video, I will also be creating a lantern made out of a mason jar. So it's just a regular old mason jar that I had at home. It's a liter. Doesn't say anywhere, but it is a liter. And I'll be using that as well as jute rope. I always have jute rope on hand. And so I'll just be using a mason jar to make my little lantern, and then I'll be using it in some decor. Because we can't go out, couldn't exactly go out and buy a different kind of lantern, and I've always wanted to make one of these, so I thought I'd share it with you. So what I started off with is taking a piece of twine and wrapping it around the top of the mason jar, and then tying it up and just leaving a little piece of it there just in case I needed it for something before I cut it off. Then I measured how much I would need of the rope. I don't know where the video went of this, but I measured by kind of going over top of the jar, and then seeing like from the bottom of the jar over top and then to the bottom, and seeing how long that was, and doing about 3 times of that size of jute rope for that. So you'll be able to see what I've done. I'm not sure what is happening with my, there we go, with the angle. But so you can see how long that is roughly. So you, like I said, you take the string over top, and then you kind of see how long that is, and that's what I did. And then I took 8 pieces of string, and I'm tying them to the little rope that I tied around the mason jar. And I'm just doing a regular knot for this. And again, leaving a little bit up top just in case I needed to adjust something or fix something. And I'm spreading them out evenly, so you know, one on each side, and so they're evenly spread apart. So if you think that they're not even, just kind of move them around a little bit, because they're not like glued in there or anything, so you can move them around. Once you have all 8 strings tied, you just want to move it around just so that it is even. I'm sorry, you can't see that. And then you'll start off by tying these strings together. I'll show you what I do here. Just make sure you spread them out, because they can get tangled. So you just make one nice knot there, and then you're going to make another knot there, and you do that all around. And you try to make it as even as possible, so the length of each one is the same length. I used about a finger length. And once you've done all 4 pairs of string, then you want to go ahead and you want to tie them together. So then you're going to take one string from each pair, and then tie it together like so. And then you just want to make sure when you're taking them that you're not grabbing the wrong one, that you're grabbing kind of from the outside as you go. And then you want to do, so like basically the one that hasn't been tied together to another one. And you want to do this all around, and you want to do it till the bottom of the mason jar. So I did, I believe, 3 of these knots. So here is the finished mason jar. I really like the way it turned out. Again, it's not like it's perfectly done. Or sorry, not mason jar, the lantern, but it looks really neat. It has the little rope around it. It's not just a plain mason jar anymore. And I also created this one just so you can see. I don't have a video of this one, but this is another summer lantern that I use. That one just hangs. That one was made out of a bigger mason jar. So here's what they look like on my back porch. I have nice seating here. I've put them in this tray that I also DIY'd. I have some lilacs from my backyard, and some tulips and some lily of the valleys. I've put candles in both. I lit the candles up, but unfortunately, because it's daylight, you cannot see it. I did not get a chance to film this last night. I was still completing my lantern, the little one yesterday. So, but anyway, I really love the way the lantern turned out, and I love how this porch looks with the lanterns and with the flowers. I think it's very inviting, very beautiful, and very summer-like. So if you liked this video, please be please be sure to hit the notification button, subscribe to my channel. I have more like this. If you want to see more, stick around. I'll have a few more videos that I've recommended for you at the end of the video. The first planter that I'm recreating is this one from Wayfair. It's $130 originally. It's like a galvanized look planter, and when I saw this, I thought I could recreate it for cheaper. So I'm using this pot. It came from Home Depot. It had some, I think, from Costco. It had those mums in it. It was that, so I saved it because it was like quite a decent planter. And I'm going to spray paint it in the Rust-Oleum metallic spray paint. And then I'm going to add some paints to it so that I can make it look all galvanized. If you've watched any of my galvanizing videos before, you know that I like to mix silver, black, white, and dark blue into my galvanizing, and it just gives me the look that I'm going for. It's one of those things that you just kind of have to play around with, and basically I dab on first the black, then the white, then the blue, and then I kind of mix them together, and I keep on doing it until I achieve the look that I'm going for. So it's kind of trial and error. For the feet of this planter, I'm using a wooden dowel. Now, we just have these around the house. If you don't happen to have them or don't want to go out and buy them, a really cheap alternative is to buy a plunger at the Dollar Tree. One plunger will be enough, and you can cut the legs from that plunger, and that'll cost you $1 rather than whatever dowels cost. It'll be a little bit thinner than this, but you don't need them to be super thick. And I originally thought I was going to attach them with hot glue and E6000, but then that didn't work because the dirt is heavy. I kind of figured it wouldn't work, so then I pre-drilled some holes into the pot and into the dowel, and I screwed them in, and that made them really nice and sturdy. And here's the finished piece. I think it turned out quite nice. I think it's a great dupe. And then the second dupe is very similar. So again, I'm using the same planter because I had 2 of them, and I'm recreating this right here from Home Depot. So it's the same idea. I spray painted the pot in this hunter green, and then I went over top of it with some black Annie Sloan wax, and this was just to give it that deeper green that the Home Depot color had. And it also made the paint look less shiny because I don't really love the shiny effect of the paint, but this dulled it down definitely. And then I still felt like it wasn't complete, like it needed a bit of a design, kind of like what the Home Depot one had. So what I did was I found some Monstera leaf SVGs for free on Cricut, and I cut those out and put them on the pot. And then I cut them out of permanent vinyl, and I put them on the pot, and then I just sprayed over top of them lightly with that green and went over top of them with the black wax. And here's what it turned out like. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy these. I hope it inspired you to do something similar. Shows you how you don't have to spend $30, $50, $100 on a planter and make it still look good and nice and fit into your decor. So mine were free to make, but you can easily make these for about $4 by buying 2 of the plungers and 2 pots from Dollar Tree. You could make these for $4 instead of, $200 almost. So again, great deal for me and a great deal if you decide to recreate these. So for this is kind of like an upcycle. It's not really a DIY. I got this lantern at Winners a few years ago. I actually got it on clearance because it was chipped to begin with and it had some rust stains. So what I did was I actually just spray painted it with this Rust-Oleum spray paint that I've been dying to try out. I bought it last year and I haven't used it yet, and I absolutely love the way it turned out. And I'll just be adding a little bit of jute rope to the handle, and that's all there is to this DIY. So I've had to repaint this a few times because my kids kept on getting into it. So now I'll just use some jute rope and I'll just attach it to the handle, and it'll just give, in my opinion, it'll give just a bit of extra character to this. So as you can see, I'm wrapping it around and then just hot gluing it in certain parts just to keep it a little bit tight, but you don't have to. You could, if you have a nice long piece, you could go wrap it around the whole way and then hot glue it. It makes it a little bit easier if you hot glue it in a few spots along the way, but up to you. And here is the finished piece. I absolutely love the color. I don't know that I'll leave it out on my front porch. I might move it to the back deck to add more color there, but I absolutely love it. And then for these guys, these are just coffee tins. So this is my trash to treasure item. Their coffee tin. One was a Kirkland coffee tin and the other one was a McDonald's coffee tin. And I'm just going to be adding some hot glue to give it some texture and then painting them out. So I've just added to this one hot glue onto 3 of the ridges, two thicker bands and 1 thinner band. And I go ahead, I'll show you how I did it on the second one. And then I painted in the Rust-Oleum chalked linen white paint. Did forget to mention sometimes the coffee tins have like stuck on glue. If you just use a scraper to get those off, and if you have Goo Gone, you can use Goo Gone to remove it and just sand it off. It comes right off. Once they are nice and dry, I've only applied 1 coat. You can see, I mean, the coverage is there, but it's not perfect. That's okay because my plan is to add some black acrylic paint, which I rub in with a baby wipe. So if you've watched my channel before, you know I love to use that baby wipe to rub in paint. It gives me such a nice look when I do that. If I do it on wood, it brings out the grain. If I do it on other things, it just makes it blend really nicely and look really nice. So what I do is I add acrylic paint to this and then I wipe it off. Don't wipe too hard, and if you don't want it to be too black, don't add too much black. You can dab off, like dry brush the black on and then smush it in. Really depends what look you're going for. So I wanted it to be a little bit darker. So I added the paint, rubbed it off. Then I carried the paint that I added all the way around and then I added some more. And I just kind of basically layered until I got the look that I was going for. You might be able to tell that in some spots I took some of the paint off because I rubbed too hard, so don't rub too hard. And then I just went back and I fixed it and I just put a little bit of white. And basically I kept on layering until I got the look that I was going for. So this is what's awesome about paint. Every project can turn out differently because you can make it like really your own, however you want. If you want a darker, lighter, whatever. I love paint and I love blending colors and layering colors. I just think it just gives that such a unique look to a piece. And that's all there is to this one. They are all finished out on my front porch. I think they look great. I just added some greenery from the backyard, some boxwood and something else. I don't know what it is. It's just a bush, so I just trimmed off some branches and I think they just turned out lovely. All the items are trash to treasure items. So the first trash item is this pail, which I kept from, I don't know, from something. And I always like to keep these for various garden projects. And I'm going to be painting this out, well, cleaning it up a bit, and then I'm painting it in the Rust-Oleum turquoise metallic paint, and just spray painting it all thoroughly. I put 2 coats of this on there, and I thought that's all I would do, but then once I put it all together, I thought that it needed a little bit more detail, so I wound up adding a band of the burlap. Now, I also wanted to cover kind of that part of it where the like where the handle was and whatnot, because normally when I'm making, so I'm making a table, I think I forgot to mention this, but when I'm making a table from stuff like this, I would flip it over, but because I want it to be like a little storage area for the kids' little toys that we don't want getting wet outside, like they have these little worms and stuff like that, I decided to leave it this way up, and then that way the kids can access it easily. So I just wrap around that band of burlap, and that's it. And I just use hot glue to attach it. And I attach it at the bottom and around the sides, and that's it. I just fold it over a little bit on the inside so it looks a bit more finished. Really, really easy. Once that is done, I go ahead and I work on the tabletop. Now for the tabletop, I'm using this old cookie sheet. It's just like a Teflon cookie, non-stick cookie sheet, not Teflon, non-stick cookie sheet. And I'm spray painting it. The reason I'm getting rid of it is I only ever used it for those casa di mama, if you have those pizzas, because you have to cook them on a really high temperature, and I was afraid if I used them on my stone for them, the stone would crack. So I only use them for those pizzas, and because of the way I use them, it would burn the edges around, and now it has some sort of smell. I've ran it through the dishwasher several times, but it is not good anymore, so I can use it for a tabletop. So I'm using the Rust-Oleum flat antique nickel metallic paint. I love these paints. You can even see how sparkly they are, and I just have to do one layer of it. And then to cover the little hole, I'm just going around with some jute rope, again using my hot glue, and making sure that it's really hot because the metal was cold, so it was kind of drying it out. And I'm just going all the way around, and I do this 3 times just to give it a little bit more detail and to cover the hole, and then it, just like I said, it kind of ties in the burlap and it looks good. So before I show you the completed table, I want to show you what I'm using to style it. So these 3 bottles I had painted for a DIY last year. Now I kind of forgot about them and left them outside, so snow and all sorts of things got on them, so the paint kind of rubbed off a bit. These are just bubble solution containers. So I'm not painting over them. I'm just going to be hot gluing them together and then just putting some of this jute rope around. Again, three times around. And then I'm going ahead and I'm distressing it with some black acrylic paint. And then I'll go ahead and add a little bit of black and white at the end and just making it look not really enameled, just really distressing and roughing it up, making it look kind of old. And that's all there is to it. and then I'll show you what it looks like all completed. So here's the table all completed, styled with these vases, which I've just put some greenery from my backyard. And it's just a nice light thing that the kids can take off and get their toys and put back on. It's not gonna spill, break, or anything like that. And it's not cute little table in the corner outside under my deck. This next project is another really easy project. My husband had some scrap plywood that he cut into a circle for me, and I sanded it down a little bit to make it less rough because I didn't want the pieces of wood getting stuck in my hand, and so I smoothed it out as much as I could. And then he cut a little hole for me because this is going to be another mock table that I'm using. And the hole is so that the hose can come out. And you're thinking, what are you talking about, hose? But I'll show you in a second. So before I show you though, I did spray paint this, and I painted it in this blue, the coastal blue from Rust-Oleum. It's the chalked coastal blue. And I did 2 coats of this. So whenever you're spray painting, you want to make sure that you're not doing too heavy of a coat the first time, well, or the second time. You just never want to do too heavy of a coat, although the chalk paint is pretty forgiving. Same with the metallic paint, so it's okay, but try not to do a big thick coat so that way you don't have drip marks. After you do your 2 coats, this is all done, and I'll show you what I did with this piece. So I put the tabletop onto this barrel that we got from Home Depot, and inside the barrel is a hose, so just a nice way to hide the hose. This water placement is unfortunate because it's kind of right underneath our deck where the seating area is, so to make it less of an eyesore, I thought this would be a cute little way to do a side table and hide the hose. You can still see it there because we do use it, but I mean you could easily just unscrew it and put it in, and then you can't see it at all. I thought this was an excellent use of the space and this barrel, so let me know what you think. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed the video. So for my trash to treasure today, I'm going to be using this plant tray. So I had bought a whole bunch of plants for my vegetable garden, and the little pots came in here, and I just didn't want to recycle it or throw it out because I thought it was a cute little tray, either for outdoors or indoors. It's not the strongest tray, so it's just decorative. But yeah, so it's nice. It's black. It is sturdier than a lot of them, but it's not like, you know, you could carry heavy things in it and use it like a serving tray. And I get so many of these little pots and trays and stuff like that, and I feel so bad recycling them or even throwing them out. Some of them you can't even recycle, so I'm always trying to think of ways that I can reuse them. So I'll just show you one way that I reuse this one. I'm still working on ways to reuse seedling trays and the little pots. I mean, obviously I can reuse them for seedlings and all those things, but I'm trying to think of creative ways. So stay tuned and you can see what I've done. So I apologize for not filming myself spray painting this, but what happened was my phone overheated because it was outside and it stopped recording. So I only have like the first, I don't know, not even second of it where I'm just trying to get the camera ready. So here's what it looks like painted. I did 2 coats of it, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just adding a little bit of black just to make it a bit more aged or distressed. So the black that I'm using is the charcoal from Rust-Oleum, and actually, because I didn't show you, I used the Rust-Oleum, there we go, paint, and I spray painted this on here, this white. I find that it covers really well, and I really didn't even have to do 2 coats on the whole thing, just on some spots that I missed, because as I've said before, when you're spray painting, you don't want to do like too heavy of a coat on anything, because then it'll run. And then, so like I said, what I'm doing is I'm using the Rust-Oleum charcoal, and I just have it in a cup like this because I had very little left and I was worried it would dry out. So this cup is perfect. And then you just, when you're distressing, depending on how dark you want it, but I don't want it to be that dark, so I just wipe off a little bit on the on just like a rag or a paper towel or whatever you have. So then I'm just going, like the edges I'm going to do a little bit more, but it's really very random of how I do it. No really method for this one. I'm just really doing it completely random because I want this tray to kind of look like it's seen many things. It's been around for a long time. So now usually I kind of do this, and then I might go back to the white if I feel like I've added too much. Sometimes I wind up adding brown. Just depends on kind of the look I'm going for, and I don't ever actually know until like the piece is somewhat done, and then I think, oh, okay, so this is what I wanted it to look like. This is really personal preference, so oops, see in there I added a bit more than, oops, there we go, a bit more than I wanted to, but that's okay. Actually gonna wipe it off. Hopefully I still can. Yep, came right off. And sometimes you can just wipe it off and then it does its own thing. And the reason, so I kind of 2 reasons why I want this to look more distressed. It is black underneath, so if ever the white paint were to come off, it won't show as much. If you know, I won't have to go around and fix it or anything like that, because I do hope to kind of use it for like a display thing outside. So I think I'm going to put my pots in it is what I'm planning on doing. So that means it may or may not get a little bit wet, so over time the paint may come off, but so this way it won't be so obvious that it came off. Let's see, I added too much here as well. There we go. That's coming off nice. And I think I'm pretty happy with that. And so I had some jute rope or cord or whatever you want to call it. I kind of always have it on hand. So here it is. So it just looks like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some handles with the jute rope. So I actually did not like the way the jute rope was looking for the handles. I decided I had this laying around, so I decided to use this. I probably bought it a long time ago for a different project, but I think the handles will look really nice. I'm not sure, I may put a little bit of black in there just to get them to look the same, but I think that'll look really nice. So I was originally going to hot glue this, but then I decided that, you know, just tying it would actually make it look really nice. So what I wound up doing is just tying this into 2 knots, and I'll show you how I do the next handle. But I think it turned out really nice. Hasn't turned out yet, I'm not done, but I think it's looking really nice. Or it's looking exactly the way I planned for it to look. So all I'm doing is I'm leaving enough to make 2 knots. So I'm just literally making knots. Maybe someone has a different way of doing this, but this is just a decorative tray. It's not hard enough to be like an actual tray, so it's not really that big of a deal if this isn't like the most sturdiest handle there is. And I'm eyeballing, thinking that's looking about the same. And then I do a double knot here, just like that. And then I cut off so it's about the same amount. Okay. Make sure it's nice and tight, and then I just move the knot to the other side. Same with this. And there we have it. For the next project, I apologize because I painted this little container together with the tray, and that's when my camera stopped working. So I painted I took the sticker off and I painted it white. The container is a cream of wheat container, just like a little small one. You can see how big it is. And what I did was I spray painted it with the same white as I did the other one. And again, I apologize for not having a picture of that. So what I'm going to do with this one as well, I'm going to distress it a bit. Just like, really just like around the edges, to be honest with you. Maybe a little bit, but I'm going to do like heavy around the edges and then a little bit less on the actual container. So like by edges I mean the lid, and there we go. And because I'm not quite liking that it's looking so like, so I often do this where I just kind of buff it out a bit. Oops. And for this one, I was mentioning for the other one, for this one I think I'm going to add a little bit of cocoa. But I want to first, because it's going to be a tea container, I want to write tea on it first. There's my tea. And then I'm going to continue distressing it. There. There we go. And I'm going to get some cocoa from Annie Sloan. I'm going to apply a little bit of that too. So I decided not to use cocoa by Annie Sloan, but rather this espresso by Art Minds. This is from Michael's. So there we go. And dab it off on here a little bit, and then more on my little rag. There we go. And again, just lightly brush. And this just has a bit of a brown to it. I mean, obviously it's espresso, so I think it'll just add to it a bit. Make it look a little more distressed. I really want this, I wanted this to look very distressed, so originally I just wanted it to be white, but I wasn't liking the way And I'm adding the brown because I think it gives it a bit of extra rustic feel. And just, I really wanted this to be distressed. That's the look I was going for. Originally, I wanted it to be just white, but you can see here, all of these little lines, there's a lot of texture to it, so I wouldn't have been able to get it like the perfect white that I had in mind, so I changed my mind and I actually, whoops, I did not apply the paint so that it would be perfect because I knew it would be way too hard to try and get it to be perfect. So I went with perfectly imperfect, which is what I do often. And I just realized that there isn't enough stuff at the bottom here, so it kind of looks like it just stopped, so I'll just continue it at the bottom too. And there you have it. There's the little tea container. So here are the pieces unstyled. I'll show you how I've styled them, and you can actually see that at the beginning of the video as well. But here they are, just the way they look on their own. So as you can see, like, this isn't distressed too heavily, just a little bit. This one is quite a bit more. Tell me which one you like better. So here's the finished product. And it gets a cute little tea holder. Now obviously I've like lifted these up a little bit, but you can fit quite a bit of tea in there. You can close it, you can leave it open, whatever you want. But it's a cute little container, and I've reused something that would have gone in the trash normally. My hope is to get a whole set of things that I've reused from food containers to be other containers for stuff in my kitchen. So for coffee, for tea, for flour, for all sorts of things, and then they all match without me having to spend a fortune on them. So here's the tray with the handles. So as you can see, again, it's just decorative. I've put my flowers in there, a little sign I previously made, and I think it's a perfect little decorative tray. Like I said, if you wanted to just have something, and you could even put a little bit of waterproofing at the bottom if if you're worried about the your pot's not holding in the water. So you could put a little clear film on there, and then that way they won't leak on your table or on your wood. But love the tray. I think it turned out really nice. Little handles. I can fit quite a bit. Well, you made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching. Stop by for my next video, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Thanks.